Greetings. I am Tom Earl. Welcome to the celebration. I know you can be anywhere. So the fact that you are here today, sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy, it means the world to me. I hope you know you are valued, loved, and appreciated just as you are. My friends, we got another solo episode for you today. Really awesome conversation we're going to have today. A lot of us have things in our life that just aren't happening, that just are stuck. We have goals, we have visions, we have projects, and there just seem to be either uncomfortably getting done, you don't look forward to it, or it's not getting done at all. So let me give you an example here. So I have been putting out a podcast episode every single week since 2016. Origin story was I was reflecting upon my 2015 on New Year's, and I realized that I was remaining intentionally small, and that the reason I was remaining intentionally small is because I was afraid that if I put myself out there, I would be faced with ridicule and rejection. Thank you, Iana Van Zandt and Brene Brown. So I said, you know what? 2016 is going to be my year of expression. And every single week, I am going to put out a piece of content. So that started with 2-minute videos. And then I did those every week for maybe three months, and realized, well, why don't I just put these videos out as a podcast as well? Because then I have a podcast. So in the beginning, the episodes were every Friday, and it was a 5-minute episode. And then my wife took me to this really awesome party with some of her friends, and I met one of her friends' husbands. Okay. And they lived in Hong Kong, but he was from Australia. And he worked on some sort of like shipping freight. So he would be basically on a ship. This is his job for like 3 or 4 days. And so he emailed me once and said, I love your podcast, but I got through all of your episodes in one like trip. So could you start putting out longer episodes? So I was like, I guess so. So then I started putting out longer episodes. And for the most part, it was just, I would just close my eyes and I would just talk in whatever came up in my heart. And then maybe a little less than a year in, I thought, I know all these cool people. Let me start interviewing them. So then I started interviewing them. And then I started this thing called the Live and Online Expression Session, where it was an online open mic. And so then I started releasing those as episodes. And I've done many, many things since then. So this past year, as you've noticed, up until this month, I have been putting out the replay episodes, because for years, I would have maybe 15 to 20 downloads each week. So not very many people listening. Most of the people who are listening I knew by name. And then in the past year, lots of people started to listen. And so I was like, a couple things happened. I was like, well, here's all this content that you missed. And then the other thing was I was just way, 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 way too busy to record episodes. This my marketing agency just like took off, and there was no time to do almost anything else. So, but I had promised myself all those years ago that I am going to put out a piece of content every week. So that that promise is the only reason I kept it going. Because otherwise I would have been like, oh my gosh, it takes so much work, and it really doesn't have a direct correlation to revenue coming in the door. Is my ads was the direct correlation. But I was like, I'm just gonna keep going, and we've put out an episode every week. There was only 1 week where we almost missed it, where I got my team everything a little bit late, and I thought we were going to miss it. And then Chi came through right in the last minute. She's like, Tom, I got it edited and uploaded at the 11th hour. You're good to go. So shout out to Chi and Molly for their phenomenal help each week in bringing this to life. So I had started to just think through, all right, I'm going to be putting out a podcast episode every week for the rest of my life because this is something I committed to. But I am just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. You know, in my business for up until now, we don't have this anymore, but what I was doing, I was working with so many clients that Monday and Tuesday, I was coaching from 9 a.m. until 1, back to back. Each client would get 15 minutes and back to 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 back. So a couple things happened. One, I got really, really burnt out on talking. Really burnt out. I mean, every client is unique and has unique problems, and each time I'd have to read their notes in 2 minutes and then assess and give advice, and I'd have to keep it all in 15 minutes because if I went over, it'd make me late for everyone after that. So it really tested me. I'm happy I went through it, but I was done. The other thing I was done with was being on camera. I was so sick of talking on Zoom on camera. And, you know, we're starting to find now in the mental health field, like, for example, my mom, she's a therapist, and she was saying at one of the presentations she went to that they were talking about how doing therapy online, you have to perform that you're paying attention more than if you were in person. And I was thinking about that. I was talking with somebody on my porch. I like to have porch and pizza hangouts at my house. And I was like talking about this, and I was saying, you know, like right now, when you and I are talking, sometimes when I need to think about something deep, I'll kind of like look out into the sky. But if I'm on Zoom and I look away from you, you don't know what I'm looking at. I could be looking at a sign that says, I hate you. Like there could be someone else in this room that I maybe am paying attention to. I could be looking at a YouTube video. You don't know when somebody looks away on Zoom, you don't have the context for what they're looking at. So we more or less, to show each other that we're looking at each other, have to look at each other the whole time. And that's tiring. And then you have to like show with your face that you're listening. So those are a couple of things I was sick of. I was sick of sitting at a computer and talking on camera. And so I really started to think through like, okay, I'm having really good conversations with people on like hikes and on my porch and at dinner. Do I record those? And I want to. That's going to be something that you're going to hear. But I started to think through the what is the podcast, and that's not going to go away. But the way I was doing it before, now keep in mind, I have been using Zoom since 2016. This is how my interviews went before the pandemic. I'd tell folks, do you want to be on my podcast? They'd say yes. And I'd say, I'm going to use this technology called Zoom. Here is a tutorial on how to use Zoom. And I kid you not, and I mean this with total love for my past guests, 9 out of 10 times, someone would get on for the Zoom and they would have no lighting and they'd be in front of their bed and their bed would just be like a mess. And a lot of these folks are like branding experts. So I'd be like, hey, I know this is new technology. Let me show you how to use it. And we'd spend like the first hour getting their lighting set up, getting their background set up, getting their mic set up. Sometimes I interviewed somebody one time and their internet froze 4 times. So then I had to figure out how to use the video on Zoom, but call in through your phone. So this is like back in the day before anybody knew what Zoom was. And so that was very draining because the interview would take 45 minutes, but I always had to set aside 2.5 hours for an interview because people didn't know how to use Zoom. So I was like, you know, I need to do something different. And so a couple decisions I made was I'm no longer, for the most part, going to do just straight interviews because The other thing I found is that I'd interview some folks and they really only have about 10 minutes of things to talk about. Because for the most part, how I got my guests was I'd search a hashtag on Instagram and I'd find someone and like consume their content and be like, oh, this person's really cool. Let me have them get on. Like for example, how I found Jana Hall, who's going to be our guest for maybe like 2 or 3 episodes from now. I'm interviewing her next Tuesday, but she was on the podcast back in 2018 or 19. And I found her on Medium. She had an article on Medium about Beyonce and marketing. And I was like, oh my God, this is such a good article. So I found her on Instagram and I DM'd her and interviewed her and it was amazing. And now we're friends. At least I think we're friends. And but sometimes I'll get someone on and I'll realize, oh, this person's really good at short form content, like 1-minute videos. And so I'd really, you'll never know. I don't think you're gonna ever know which one of those episodes it was where the person I realized like, oh, this is their first podcast interview and they don't really have anything to talk about. So I really, really had to work hard to ask really good questions to bring it out of them. And they'd give these phenomenal responses. Every single person that's been on this podcast, I am so grateful for. And I feel like they gave everything they had. So this is not a putting down. This is more of a, it takes a lot of energy on my end to do these interviews. And my business is much more successful than it was when I was doing those interviews. And I also now have a child, so I don't have the time or energy that I used to. So it's like, I got to do something different. So what you're going to see in these episodes coming forward, and I'm also showing this to you for a reason. There's a lesson learned in this for you. So I decided I'm not going to have camera on when I interview people. I'm not going to have camera on for me when I do these episodes. So what I used to do is like set up lights, camera, action, and I'd be talking to you in a camera. And I just find that it's so hard not to perform when the camera's on, right? To like talk to the camera. Like I find I get more enthusiastic when the camera's on. And you get a little more of kind of how I talk if you and I were just sitting in a room. So that was the first one. I'm like, I'm not going to have camera on. So when I interview folks, we leave the camera on for the first 3 minutes, then we turn it off. And I've done 2 interviews that way so far. And I have found that it works a lot better. The second thing is it's not going to be just a straight interview where I just ask questions and they answer. It's going to be a conversation because I found that interviewing is really fun, but I am just really hungry for conversation in my life. Ask any of my friends. I'm always trying to get folks to hang out and just have good conversation. It's just, I think a part of it is maybe because I did so much coaching and it's not, coaching isn't conversational, it's coaching. So I'm just so hungry for like, I want to wrestle with some things together. I want to see where this goes. And so that's another way that I'm doing it. So all this to say, I'm doing a lot of different changes. And some of the things that I really want to do, I want 2023 to be my year of research. Like I'm so hungry to like all these different things that I have learned being in the trenches of marketing over the past 3 years, just like really doing. I'm now like zooming back and creating coherent theories around what I've been doing based upon like intuition and reaction, because the market has been changing almost weekly right now. And if you don't, I recommend, this is one of the things that I have started to do in my life is get news subscriptions on my app. Obviously when I say mine, you're going to hear my bias, but like Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Economist, LA Times, those are my 4. And instead of going on social media, I just read articles. Because for one, it teaches me to read long form content. But the other thing is it really just helps me see like outside of my industry, how volatile the marketplace is. So that's why I want to like zoom out and start to kind of like create some of the lessons learned. So all that to say, I have now started to get back into recording for you episodes, and I'll eventually record like 2-3 months at a time, which is what my editor prefers. But right now, like, it's a Tuesday, you're going to hear this episode this Sunday, so you're hearing it pretty quickly. Whereas what I normally do is I'll record maybe 20 episodes at a time so that my editor can have them and she can just like do them all at once, or bulk them. Okay, so I'm going to get to that, but right now you're hearing them in a pretty quick turnaround. So far this has been making my podcast episodes again a joy. Now the other thing that I experimented with this week is for Crystal's episode, you might have seen it, you can go back and look, I made that flyer myself. Now one of the things that I love to do is collage art. That's one of my favorite things. Scrapbook, collage art. I love to do that. Back when I was single, I would do a collage every single night for therapy. And so I bought an iPad Pro to do digital collage art on Procreate. And I was doing it all the time. And then my iPad became my daughter's TV. So when we go on long road trips and stuff, she watches it. So I've gotten out of the habit of doing art because she has my iPad. So I am starting to create space in my life for things other than short-term results. So on Sunday, for example, Sunday morning, I woke up and I was doing some art and I was like, let me try to create the show flyer. And of course I was like halfway done, and then my wife was going to take our daughter for somewhere, and so she's like, I need the iPad. I was like, oh, this is what happens. But anyways, I'm gonna try to create the show flyers for each one of these episodes coming up. And Adora was saying, how long is that going to take you? I mean, because before, all the flyers that you've been seeing, I was paying someone to do on Fiverr. Shout out to Katza. And she's like, it's going to take you a long time to create those. And I was thinking, it is, but I want to see what happens if for 3 months I create a piece of art that has purpose. It's not just because I create all the time that you're never going to see. It's just for me. But this is like something I'm gonna share with the world, which is very vulnerable. But it's on a timeline, so like I have to get this done. I can't be perfectionist. So I'm very curious to see how the process is going to transform me. Because it's the same thing with this podcast. I was thinking, why don't I switch to putting out a podcast once a month? Let me see, why does it have to be once a week? Let me do it once a month. And then I was thinking, Tom, what's going to happen is you put it out once a month. You're going to wait to the last minute and put an episode anyways, right? You got to carve out time in your life to do this. This is important to you. Carve out the time. But most importantly, I want to see how it transforms me to start putting out an episode every week again, a new episode, not a replay, and to experiment with format. I want to see how it transforms the way I look at things. For one, it's going to transform my skill at talking in long form. Already, I can tell you this feels so much smoother. If you go back and listen to the first episode that I put out that wasn't a replay a couple weeks ago, you might not have thought so, but I thought it was super awkward and clunky. And I just knew that's just how it is. It's because you haven't done one of these in almost a year, and 6 months from now, you're going to be smooth. But you got to go through that process of getting better. So this is for you, my friends. When you're trying to analyze something in your life that isn't working, a lot of times it's because you just got to let go of the end results and allow the process to transform you along the way. You have to be willing to put out some episodes that are clunky and awkward and boring and don't quite connect, and then listen to them, or at least in your mind, play it through and realize that it's going to take you time to get better. But the most important thing is, oftentimes we think that it's what we're doing, right? So it's the podcast. That's the what. I need to stop what I'm doing. I need to stop the podcast. When in reality, it's often the how is more important than the what. And there are a lot of things in our life that we don't want to be doing that we're going to have to do. So, for me, I don't like getting up early most days of the week with my daughter, but she does. That's when she gets up because she goes to bed at 8. So she's getting almost 12 hours of sleep a night. So it's like, this isn't going to stop. I'm going to be getting up with her every morning or most mornings for years, and it's not going to end. So that what will not change, but the how is. So then I started getting to bed early, and it took a lot of discipline, but it's paid off dividends. So look through in your life. If there's friction in the what, if you're thinking, oh, this job I'm doing I hate, or my commute, or whatever it might be, let go of trying to change the what. Like, I hate this job, I just want to quit, or I hate this commute, I just wanted to stop. And start thinking of, is there a different way that you can be doing it? If not, is there a different way that you can be thinking about it while you're doing it? I'm going to give you another example. So I don't know if you've seen all these studies, but there's all these studies out there that show that in heterosexual relationships, men live longer if they're married. Okay. I don't know the studies on more diverse relationships than just straight marriages. My apologies. These are specifically for that. And they're also talking about cis folks. Okay, so this is very like heteronormative studies, but I still think there's insights. Okay, so men live longer if they're married. Okay, interestingly enough, that the women do not get the benefit as much as men do. So this is the reason I give context to this, is my wife has me taking daily vitamins. Okay, so I am definitely on the, I am a prover of the study that Adora keeps me healthy and much better longevity. So anyways, I was very inconsistent though in taking these vitamins. And so that's the what, taking the vitamins. But I got to take them, right? This is something I agreed to. Even if I don't believe in vitamins, I've agreed to this with my wife. So I'm going to do it out of agreement. And I just couldn't get consistent in it. So then I started thinking, okay, it's the how, right? I let go of the tension around the what, because for so long it was like, oh, vitamins, oh, it's so dumb, blah, blah, blah. That's the what. All this friction, all this around the what. But once you commit to something, I've committed to it, then you got to let go of the what. You got to just, the what is what it is. So then I started thinking through the how differently. And I realized what I hate is refilling the vitamins. I hate, you have your little vitamin tray. I hate refilling it. But once it's filled, I'll take them, but I hate filling it. So then I'd put it off and I'd miss weeks. So what I started to think of is, what if I could fill more than 1 week at a time? So then I looked online and they have a really cool one where you can lay out your whole month of vitamins at one time. Like they have, basically it's 4 sets of 7 days. And so I was like, boom. So I sat down last week and I laid out a month of vitamins, and I've been taking them every single day. That was the game changer. So right there, my friends, think about in your life, if there's something like vitamins, or what is it that you can, if you got to let go of the tension around like, shouldn't I commit? And now it's really thinking about the how. And I tried lots of things. I tried like check mark, like giving myself a gold star every time I took one. So it's lots of different things, just constantly trying to change the how. But the how isn't just logistical, it's also mental. It's also thinking about it differently. So I'll give you a last one here, and hopefully this is getting the juices flowing. So I'm very consistent in working out, very consistent. It's my self-care. It's very cathartic for me. So I've somehow been able to link working out to emotional release. So I say, like, for example, cardio, even if cardio gave me no physical benefits, I would still do it just for the mental. But lately, um, you know, daycare colds are going around like crazy. Weather's changing, all that kind of stuff. I just haven't been feeling it. But this is something I've committed to. So how can I do it different? Well, what I have started to do is I realized that my daughter weighs, somewhere between 20 to 30 pounds. And she loves being like thrown and swirled and spinned. And she loves playing tag. And so I was like, oh, playing with my daughter is working out. So when we hang out, instead of trying to reserve a little bit of energy that I can use when she goes to bed, then I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out through play. And so, 2 or 3 days of the week when we play, like, I go all in. Like, sometimes I have to be like, hang on, daddy needs a breather. And then I'm like, sometimes I will be doing an activity. Like, let's say she wants me to like throw her in the air, throw her in the air, throw her in the air. Like, there's this one time she wanted me to do this thing where it's like, I pick her up, I squat down to almost where my butt touches the ground, and then I jump into the air with her. Like, she was so into that. And I did it, and I could do maybe like 6. And then I was like, okay, daddy needs to rest. And she was like, not about that life. So then when we did it again, I got a little bit better. We did it again, I got a little bit better. And then the last time I outlasted her. So for me, I was like, okay, this is actually working out. This is where you should like let go of all that energy. Do it here. Do it during this time. And it's been working out awesome. Little play on words there. For one, she loves it. For two, I'm getting exercise. Like, I am so sore. I don't know what it's called, underneath your armpit where it like runs down the side. Is that called your lats? Maybe. We played yesterday, and I am so sore there today. So I mean, that was the equivalent of if I was, doing push-ups or a bench press. So that for me, once again, was another change the how, not the what. So when I was thinking of what do I want to talk to you about today, that was the theme, is I want to pass on to you. This has been a big lesson learned for me in 2022, is it's not always about the what. It's really the how is often more important. But we spend so much time going back and forth on changing the what, when oftentimes we have no control over the what. There's so many things in our life that we're creating tension around, wanting to change this thing that we have to do. And it's just something we're going to have to do, maybe for the rest of our life, maybe for this season of our life. And if you just let go of the friction around resisting that you have to do it, and just tap into that creative part of your mind that's like, how can I make this even just a tiny bit more fun? 2 things are going to happen. You're going to free up a ton of energy that you've been wasting resisting the present moment. And when you just first of all, when you let that go, right? Like, okay, I'm going to be in traffic every single day, and using Waze or switching lanes, at the most, it's going to give you 3 extra minutes. Okay. But for the most part, you're just creating emotional pain, resisting what is. So as soon as you just let go and say, this is what it is. I don't have the time to do separate workouts. It is what it is. I'm not going to beat myself up over that. I'm going to free that energy. Oh, look at this. This is working out, right? So as soon as you free yourself from that, it then gives you start to tap into things other than your intellect and rational mind. And you get insights, and you can be creative in ways that creativity was locked up because of the dysfunctional moment we were having with the present moment. So that was what came to mind for me. And I thought these are 3 really clear examples in my life where I've seen it play out. And using this process of step 1, accept. This is what it is. There is no getting out of this. and trying to, or hating it, or trying to project yourself into the future when it's over, all of that stuff, that split is what creates anxiety and stress. That split right there, trying to be somewhere other than where you are. So first, just accept it. This is it. This is where I am. Okay. And then try to let go of the mental commentary. This sucks. This is bullshit. I should be somewhere else. There's such a better use of my time I could be using. All of that right there is just locked up energy. So you accept what is, you stop that mental commentary, and you just give yourself permission to do it, to try to figure out a way to do it a little bit differently. And then allow the process to be more important than the result. So if the result is, well, I want to enjoy this, or I want this to be more efficient, or I want to get more consistent. Okay, cool. Hold on to that loosely. Be more interested in saying how the process you use to quote unquote get there, let that be what transforms you. Let just that play of experimentation, let that right there teach you something. And when you do that, it's just going to unlock some joy, and you're going to find some hidden gems in life that make life easier, whether it's taking your vitamins, working out, or recording a weekly podcast. My friends, that's all I got for you for today. This has been a blast getting to share these thoughts with you. I'm always curious what you think, if you've even listened to this. Shoot me an email back, shoot me a text, shoot me a DM. If you listened to this episode and it moved you or you hated it, I appreciate feedback either way. So let me know. It'd be very, very much appreciated. And if you are curious about how to think like a holistic marketer, about how to boldly tell your story, and then how to make sure that that story gets in front of your perfect person, if you're curious about any of that stuff, that is what we're doing in our Direct Connect Method immersion program. We would be honored to have you join us. We are really wrestling with how do we market in a way that's ethical and spiritual? And how do we really use our gifts, our business, our creativity to uplift? If that's the kind of stuff that you're interested in, I really think that you would enjoy being a part of our community. And all that information can be found at tomearl.me/DCM invite, or you're going to see it in the show notes below. And look, we know that these are interesting times we're living in. So for us, we just want you to be a part of our community. And so if finances are a barrier for you, we have scholarships available for anyone who requests one. My friends, this has been such a joy getting to be with you. I hope I get to spend more time with you next week or in our immersion program. As always, I'm wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
One more thing. I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.